All right, it's November 11th, 2022. My name's Timothy French, and we're in the Uwharrie Mountains to hike the Uwharrie Trail to Long Trail, I believe is the name of it. I'm not quite sure, but there's a sign up ahead that's going to tell us. So let's start walking. Yeah, Joe Moffett trailhead's where I parked, and this man did a lot to establish this trail in this area, and they left a nice marker for him. Got a little sign, as always, over here on the right. Caring for the land and serving the people. Writes all your rules and shows you where you at, and we can go on down. Feels good out here right now. Got a nice warm breeze coming up from the south. Got a little tropical storm making its way up toward us. So I fully expect to be caught in some rain out here today. That's all right. I'm used to it. I've been hiking in the rain before. Yeah. Uwharrie Trail south, we're going a little long mountain, 0.8 miles. That's not too far. It's beautiful out here today. I love it when the wind's blowing like this right here. Yeah, I had planned on going down doing some town center videos this week, down around Lumberton and Pembroke and all that, and check some of them off the list. But that storm started coming up through there, so I decided to stay in town here and do a little hiking video. I hadn't done none this fall. I want to get out here in the woods and break things up a little bit. So this worked out good. So the Uwharrie Mountains, which are a quite small range of mountains today, were once very tall, 20,000 feet at one time. All through time, they kept getting wore down by wind and weather, nature as a whole. And now the tallest peak here is around 1,100, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure. That's amazing how you can have a big mountain range like that just get worn down over time. Just shows you how the earth is always changing, and our lifespan here is just a very short time, a little blip on the map of things, I guess. It's beautiful out through here, and what's amazing is that the ocean, which is 150 miles from here, used to come right up to these mountains, but over time that changed too, and it's on out 150 miles from here now. Just thought that was interesting. Look at these rocks, these white rocks. I don't know what the name of them is, but they're all up in here on this trail. You look in the distance, kind of like could look like little pieces of snow left over from a melt or something. If you use your imagination a little bit, if you look off in the distance there, maybe like see it snowed and it was melting away. Looks like there's gonna be a lot of little stone up ahead here too. The very first hike I went on the Appalachian Trail was back in 1976 when I was 16, and me and 3 other friends went up there to do a section hike up around a Big Bald area up in Erwin, Tennessee. And we went up there, took my car, and my parents followed us up and dropped our car off, and then they drove us to the trailhead there in Erwin. We got out of there young and knowing it all, backpacks, overweight. You know how people do when they do a big hike for the first time. That was really my big first experience at going in a hike up in the mountains there like that. Most of the rest of my hikes were local like this one here, but yeah, we took off and it was cloudy like this, and we left Erwin there up along the Nullichucky, the trailhead there, and headed south on the Appalachian Trail. Headed up to the Balds, a little Bald and Big Bald. We started climbing that mountain, and I'm gonna tell you, that thing went straight up. As I remember it, I don't remember any switchbacks. They might have been, but it didn't seem like it. And we hiked, and we had to lean over and grabbing trees to help pull us up as we went. It's a good thing we were young, that's for sure. We probably had 50 pounds a piece on us, and big old hiking boots we thought we were supposed to buy at the time. They probably weighed a ton on our feet as well. Anyway, We climbed that thing all day long. And as evening set in, we got about 15 miles into it, and we topped over a little bald there. We were tired, wore out. So we decided we're gonna set up a tent right up there on top. Got ready to start putting things together, and a thunderstorm rolled in on us. And I mean a big one. So we started lightning and thundering, and you wasn't looking up at the lightning. The lightning was all around you. I don't know if you've ever been flying somewhere and had to go through a storm like that. The lightning was just outside the window. That's how it was on us. I mean, you felt like you were in the lightning. Wind blowing. So we abandoned the tent set up and grabbed everything, hunkered down under the edge of a rock. About 2 hours that thing raged on. And then it finally quit thundering and lightning, but it kept raining. So we decided we're going to get our stuff and hike on up to a shelter that was near Big Ball. It was about dark then. So that's what we did. And I don't know, it's probably about another 5 miles or so. I ain't really sure. We got to that trailhead in the dark, and it was packed full. Everybody had the same idea, of course. So we couldn't get in, and we was wore out and tired. We said, well, we already wet. Let's just keep walking. We'll hike all through the night. We got it. We young. We can do it, right? So there we took off in the dark with our headlights shining. Well, we went on, and we climbed up Big Ball Mountain, crested that in the middle of the night, then started back down. And we went a good ways further. Every mile seemed like 10 at that point. And started hearing something following us. Of course, we said, oh, it's a bear's following us. And we got all nervous about it. And something was following us. I mean, you could hear it, but couldn't see it. But could have been a bear, could have been a bear, could have been a deer, could have been anything, But in our minds, it was the biggest bear ever, ready to tear into our packs and get our food. So we kept moving, and then finally, it was raining so hard on us. My buddy, he got so soaked, he started getting hypothermic, and he couldn't go no more. So we found a log, and we all sat down that log, and he was just shaking, getting pretty bad off. So I took his sleeping bag, and I turned it. He sat up, and I just put it down over top of his head there, and let him sit inside that thing for a little bit, get his temperature back up. And that's what we did for about 30 minutes. Everybody just sat there like a bunch of zombies on that log. We were so tired. Well, he finally warmed up, and I took that sleeping bag off of him. His eyes was just kind of in a daze, like he'd been sleeping in a half sleep, half awake state. I don't know, but we snapped him out of it and got on the trail again. We were moving slow. At one point, that boy, I just said, it got cold. He was wanting to just quit. He said, just let me lay down here and let the bear get me. I'm not going any further. And we had to urge him on to keep going. We're gonna make it. We're gonna get to the car. So on through the night we went, mile after mile, hour after hour. It seemed like forever, but I'm sure it wasn't as far as we thought it was. But it was up and down a lot. We finally come up on this field. We crossed over that field, and when we did, another thunderstorm come in on us again. Lightning hitting, crackling. I mean, it was hitting. And we'd always heard you didn't want to be around any trees, and if you was in the field, you just wanted to kind of lay down. Let me hold this wind off. I know it just peeked out on you probably. But yeah, we'd heard you just lay down, so we were so tired. We said, we're just going to lay down here in this field in our sleeping bags and sleep, not go nowhere else. And that's what we did. We all throwed our sleeping bags out, no tent or nothing. Crawled in them, soaking wet, sleeping bags soaking wet. But I'm going to tell you what, that was the best sleep I ever had in my life. I covered up in that thing. It didn't make no difference. It was wet. I felt warm anyway. Maybe I was cold too, but I dozed off into the most wonderful sleep I ever had, I believe, to this day. It was a great time while it lasted, but I don't know how long we slept there. All of a sudden I heard bear, bear. That was my buddy, that one that had gotten cold, and he was screaming and hollering. There's a little spring down there if you need some water. Yeah, he was screaming and hollering. Bear, bear. I jumped up and looked up, and the sun was coming up then early morning. I looked up there at him, and it wasn't no bear. It was a cow sticking his head through a fence we had landed up against. There was a pasture on one side of that field, and there was a fence, and that cow had nudged through that fence up to my buddy's head and bumped him, and it scared the crap out of him. So that was pretty funny. Well, he was a mess that night and all morning the way he was acting, but we survived the cow attack and got our stuff up, started hiking again. We kept hiking, and then we started hearing cars. Oh man, I hear the cars, we're almost there. Well, if any of you guys ever hiked the Appalachian Trail, you know it ain't always true. If you think you get into a road and you hear cars, that don't mean nothing. Sound travels a good ways, and a lot of times you just walk alongside the road till you get on down a ways to where you're gonna get out. But we finally made it and popped out of the woods and got my old olive green Love Machine Maverick that I owned back in the day. I thought I was so cool then. And we headed on out to the closest restaurant we could find because we were starving. My buddy jumped out and we put in this restaurant. I think it was a chicken restaurant. They went on in, and then I come in after them. They was already in line. Then there was a woman and her daughter in line behind them. And then I jumped in line. Excuse me. And I'll never forget that little girl tugging at her mama and pointing at my friend that was in front of her and said, "Mama, why does that man smell so bad?" And I was just laughing. And I kind of got looking at myself, looking at how dirty and rough we looked and how bad we all must have smelled, but we were nose blind to it by then. And I started feeling sorry for that little girl having to smell us. We got our food, ate up, and headed on home, and that was our first big adventures up there on the Appalachian Trail. We've hiked many of them up through there after year. Every year we'd go again, but two of the first bunch, they never went back, but the others, one more did, and then the boy that got cold, he went back with me several times, and others jumped in and out over the years, and I still got friends we go hiking today up there. And you can always get into something when you go out in the trail, and the perfect days you never remember, but the ones like I just told you about, you remember them forever, and they always make a good story. Speaking of bears, we went on another trip. Years later, we left Clingman's Dome up there in the Smokies and headed north and did a hike toward the Newfound Gap, I guess it is. I think that's what it's called. Crossed there and went on up the other side, and then we took a side trail down toward, I think, Smokemont. And three of us. It was a great hike the whole time. We got to a nice little campsite one night, pretty big. There were some other groups camped out, dispersed all over. We set up our tent, even we had a little picnic table there. And we got to cooking some of that ham and things, and oh man, it smelled good. We ate good that night. And we had that time we'd either stay in a shelter, or we had you could buy these little tube tents, orange tube tents, basically a piece of plastic, a tube of plastic, and you'd run a ridge line through it and then spread it out at the bottom with rocks, and you'd have like a little A-frame tent without no ends on it. And after we ate, we all climbed in that thing, went to sleep, and not being very bright, we left all our food stuff out there on the picnic table. Well, I don't know what time it was, but I heard a grunt coming from a distance. I knew what it was. It wasn't no cow this time. And I guess hear him out there. He got to our picnic table. We still had a fire. I could see his shadow through the side of the tent. He was hitting our pans and stuff like that. So I just hunkered down, hope he'd get what he wanted left. But he didn't. He got bored with that, and he decided to come check us out. When he came, I saw him at the side. There was 3 of us in that tent, and the other 2 boys were still asleep. And must be getting near the top. It's getting steeper here. I saw him go down toward the foot, so I scooched up to curled up near the front, the head of it. And he stuck his head in down there and looked around. I could see him peeking out through my sleeping bag. I could see him. And he went back and he headed toward the front head of the tent where our heads were. So I scooted on down to the foot, and my 2 buddies, their heads were sitting right there where the bear was. He come in and about stepped on one buddy there, Drew, and kind of doing a little grunt thing. And I just like down at the end, hoping they'd get them before he got me, I reckon. And he finally pulled out. I tell you what, I was nervous. He was a big one. He got what he wanted. Moved on down. I woke my buddies up. Hey man, there's a bear in here, and they thought I was lying. You're crazy. Go back and see, ain't no bear. I see, he's right there. He was on top of you almost. You're full of it. About that time we heard the campers down below us yelling, "Go away, bear, go away." They were throwing stuff at him. They believed me then. So yeah, hike long enough, you're gonna run into bears. I've had several encounters with them, but they don't mean no harm. They just looking for something to eat. And the way we've moved on in on their land, they ain't got much area left, so you're gonna see them from time to time. I've had encounters with other animals too, even on that same trip. We were in a shelter packed full of people. That was before we got to that campground I just told you about. And they had 6 bunks on the bottom, 6 on the top, and back then they was not wood like they are now where you laid. They was just wire fencing. And I was laid up in there. I had hair back then. It was quite long. And I was sleeping. All of a sudden, something started grabbing my hair and screaming. I jumped up hollering about like my buddy Mike did when he thought that cow was a bear. Everybody said, what is it? Something got me. Turned out it was a little possum got up in there, underneath there. For some reason, he decided to dig around on me. He run around there a little bit and we got him out. That was kind of funny too. And then another time, after in Spence Field going south on the Appalachian Trail toward Fontana Dam on a different trip, we were sleeping in a tube tent again, like the one I told you before. And it was daylight. We just resting in there, and a bunch of skunks come up. They wasn't scary because people had been there all the time, and they would dig around in their packs. And nobody messed with them because they didn't want to get squirted. I was laying there. One of them skunks just came right in on me, got right on my chest, looking at me. I was like, what? I thought for sure I was going to get squirted. He sat there a minute and looked at me about like your cat would if he was on top of you. And he finally got off and left. There's probably about 10, I don't know, maybe not 10, but there had to be at least 5 or 6 skunks out there. There's a bunch of them, and one of them was albino, a white one. That was interesting. That was a cool camping spot because there were deer that come right up there and through the camp, wasn't scared of you. And of course, those skunks did too, and they really wasn't a problem. So I enjoyed that hike as well. Starting to level out here, so we may be getting close. I mean, we should be getting pretty close. There's a little blaze right there. Got a good little ways to go up here, and we should be to the top. There's supposed to be some good views, and if we get there early enough before the clouds get deep, we should be able to look around. You can kind of see over those trees there. Some birds flying in that wind. They love it when it's like this. Where'd he go? They just glide along. There's no. Yeah, it's like surfing for them, I guess. Yeah, not a bad hike so far. You can see how all this is young growth. Little trees, a little field here on top. Hadn't been too long ago that it was a field, but all these Uwharrie mountains back in the day, early days, they cut down every tree off this mountain, of course, and try to make money off that lumber. I bet that was a sad sight to see. Luckily they saved it. The trees are growing back, and I can see shelter of some sort up ahead, so I think we're here. I thought it was just gonna be a little picnic area, but it looks pretty big. I'll see it up ahead. Yeah, this hasn't been growing up for very long. These trees are young. A lot of grass. Let's see what it says up here, because we are at the top. I don't know what this stone thing was. First I thought it might be a water fountain. It says Little Long Mountain. This little marker there. Eagle's Nest Project. Those are Boy Scouts doing good jobs, I'll tell you. A friend of mine, his son was in it. They did a lot of good things too. Little Bald Mountain, memory of Barney Allen. So I guess you can camp up here. I thought it was just gonna be, oh, that wind's getting up. Let's get in here just a minute. Yeah, it's kind of like a little shelter you'd find on any trail. Got a tinder box, brooms, real nice campsite. So yeah, this would be a cool place to come up and camp. Well, here's that view I was talking about. All different directions. Let's see if that wind ain't gonna be too bad. Hopefully, it's coming and going. Oh, there it comes back. Yeah, you can see all down through there. Just beautiful. You know, I love hiking in any weather, like I said. You can see the mountains all up there. You might think you're in the mountains. We're down here in the Piedmont. Just beautiful, man. See if we can get a shot going through these grasses. Yeah, I like that. Like that. Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, I felt my first raindrop. Yep, here it comes. First little rain. First little rain. I can see some off in the distance there. Let's go back up here in the shelter real quick. Here comes the rain. Sometimes it rains, that's for sure. Let's sit in here. I got me a little umbrella and a poncho if I need it. I can feel it. Wind's getting up now. Oh, I think I heard thunder. So I'll be walking back in the goo, and I'll probably sit here just a minute and head on back with you guys, because I don't want to be stuck in that lightning storm like it was up there on Little Ball. Yeah, you guys get out and do your little local hikes like this. You'll enjoy it. You know, excuse me, allergies are still kicking in. As I told those stories about a trip there, and I talked about the one guy that got cold, good friend of mine, hiked with me over the years, friends all our lives really. But his has took a bad turn here lately, and he's let the addiction get hold of him, and it's really sad. And I just want to encourage everybody that's got an addiction, or family members that's trying to help somebody with addiction, like I've had to do in my life and even in my career as a firefighter. Hang in there. Hang in there. And you can get through it. And for those of you that are trying to help them, just know that there's nothing really you can do. There's no amount of love, no amount of money, no matter prayer, no matter what, or no matter the amount of SAD you have and how much you think they'll care about that, it won't matter to them. You know, they'll turn on you, your friend, they'll turn on their daughters, their mothers, their fathers, their wives, husbands, whatever it is. And they'll keep doing that until they don't want to do that drug anymore. Only they can turn it around. They do the drug because they want to do the drug. So they use the word addiction as a reason to say, I can't help it. It's not me. It's my addiction. But it's really them, because people don't do anything they don't want to do. And a drug addict wants to do those drugs. And once they admit to it, then it's easier for them in the future to say, I wanted to do them, but now I don't. And I have the power to turn around and walk away from it. So don't lose hope. And if you ever find yourself under a dark cloud and rain is pouring on you and everything don't seem like it's going your way, don't give up hope. Get up and start walking. Start walking down a different path. If you came up a wrong path and it turned out bad for you, turn around, just like we're doing right now. Head back home. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care if it's dark or sun shining. Take one step after another.